And we'll go ahead and kick this off with a roll call covering any meeting logistics. And as we go around, I don't know, feel free to share any recent bike adventures you went on recently or want to go on this year. I'll start us off. Welcome. My name is Tom Lamar. I'm chair of the committee. I recently noted the new Blue Bikes app shows every station you've ever been to out of the 400 or so. So I've decided to collect them all slowly but surely. So that'll keep me busy for at least a few months. That I don't see Lena yet, so I'll hand it over to Ted Feldman.
Hey folks, welcome. Ted Feldman, secretary of the committee, Ward 5 resident. Don't really have any particular big ride plans yet this year. I'll be doing Raid Rockingham again, or Raid Lamoille in Vermont. We'll see.
All right. Next, Gregory.
Gregory, member of the committee. I don't have too many bike plans. Someone was trying to convince me to do is it D2R2 out in that big dirt ride. Yeah. I might do it.
Yes. Here's fun. Here's very intense. All right. Next up, Alex.
Hey everyone, Alex Frieden, Ward 2 resident, member of the committee. I'm as for recent adventures, I recently, probably a bit too adventurous, got hit on Beacon Street as a car was turning into me. So more adventurous than I want to be. On fun adventures, I would like to try to do Penn Mass Challenge this year and D2R2 again. So Greg, I'll see you there.
Sorry to hear about that. I hope you don't have too many more adventures like that one. All right, next up, Mark.
Hi, Mark, member of the committee in the Ward 4 10 Hills. I recently, for the holidays, took the MBTA out to Worcester and then rode my bike to Hatfield. That was a nice 60-mile adventure. Sadly, I didn't do the return trip because it was too rainy and cold.
Fun adventure. Cool. Next up, Lena, introduce yourself, and if you'd like, tell us about a bike adventure you've been on recently or want to do this year.
Oh, wow. Hi, Lena Webb, member of the committee. Gosh, I guess, the longest ride I'd done in a while was when I joined Ted and a couple other folks and went to Rockport with Ken. Biked there. The train would have been there should we need it, but we made it successfully there and back on bikes. And that was an adventure. It was fun.
All right. Next, we'll honor ex officios, then give any guests a chance to introduce themselves if they'd like. Alex, Adam.
Hey everyone, Adam Polinsky, senior planner for the city of Somerville and co-liaison to the bike committee. I recently took my first e-bike ride, actually. They just rolled them out in the Blue Bike system, and so that was my first opportunity, and took it from City Hall over to the Abbey in Cambridge, and it was pretty freaking cool, I'll be honest. So excited to take more of those. I actually found one near my house and took it out to visit a friend in Medford, where they also just rolled out some stations in West Medford, which was pretty cool. So took it there and back and saw 2 e-bikes at the one at the station close to my house, Powder House Circle. So an embarrassment of riches, if you will, at the time, but it was really cool, and I hope to do more in the future.
Awesome. You gotta take it up the hill to City Hall as well.
Yeah, that would be the obvious scenario in which I'd really be able to take advantage.
Viola.
Viola Austin, also planner in the city and co-liaison to the bicycle committee. And I was really excited to ride the community path from Cambridge to Lexington on Christmas Day. And it was warm and balmy and fantastic.
Typical New England weather.
Awesome. And then for any guests who I think do not have the mic enabled currently, should we give them a chance to speak or have them raise their hand first?
Up to you.
All right. Guests, you are welcome to unmute yourself to introduce yourself if you'd like. Preston, I see your hand raised, so go ahead if you'd like.
Oh,
Sorry, I had to hit in the permission thing. Hi, my name is Preston. I'm a new resident in Somerville, and I just wanted to join in to listen through the call, trying to figure out more ways to get involved with pedestrian and bicycle transit type things. So yeah, and I'm looking forward to trying to do some snow biking around this weekend.
Sounds great. Welcome. Thanks for joining us tonight. Adam, could you give brother give Paul and then Zachary a chance to speak if they'd like? Well, welcome, folks. Guests, feel free to introduce yourself. Let us know if anything in particular brings you here tonight. If you're just generally interested, that's great too.
Paul, you should be able to unmute now.
Sorry, I'm on a ride right now on the community path. And it's kind of windy, so it's hard for me to hear everything that's happening, but I've done lots of rides recently, and I did a Halloween ride with 400 plus parents and kids, and I organize those rides quarterly and highlighting infrastructure in various towns. Thanks.
Thanks, Paul. Stay warm. And Zachary, feel free to introduce yourself. Let us know if anything in particular brings you here tonight.
Hi. Yeah, I'm Zachary. I live in the Davis Square area. I'm generally just interested in bike infrastructure and bike safety, since I and a lot of people in my social circles like to just get around in our regular lives. And I have not previously made it to the Zoom meeting for this group, so I was going to try to finally make it to this one, since I have a lot of concerns about like bike infrastructure or lack thereof in areas in Somerville.
Well, welcome, Zachary. Good meeting for that. With that, all right, guests, you are here as guests in webinar mode. Feel free to raise your hand and we'll attempt to give folks a chance to join in if they're interested. You're welcome to just listen in as well. And I'll provide some contact info for anyone who wants to learn more or get more involved in the future. With that, next up, our acting secretary for tonight is Ted Feldman. Thanks for stepping up, Ted, and for scheduling our future acting secretaries. Are you all set taking minutes tonight?
Yeah, I'm fine with taking minutes. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Ted. Next up, approval of December meeting minutes. Gregory, thanks for stepping up to take minutes last month. Anyone have any changes to suggest or any concerns before we move to approve the December meeting minutes? Hearing none, I move to approve the December meeting minutes, seconded by Gregory. All members in favor, please raise your hand, say aye, otherwise make your vote known. All right, December meeting minutes are approved.
Aye.
Next up, call for any upcoming outreach events. A little quieter in January, but anybody have upcoming events to share?
There's one meeting that we might be interested in having somebody attend for the committee. Is the Davis Square commercial area plan, especially due to the connection of the community path through there. Just wanted to call that out. That's on January 29th from 6 to 8 p.m.
Can you put that in the chat, Greg, just so I can catch that in a minute? The dates.
Yep, I will put that in.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Anything else? All right, seeing nothing. If people think of anything later, feel free to put it in the chat as you go on. All right, next up, our main focus for tonight is priorities for 2024. So for the most part, I wanted to have fairly open-ended conversation about potential priorities for the committee. And then after that, we have some somewhat more specific brainstorming of what questions we have for the city's engineering department in particular. Some context setting. Last month, we discussed some priorities for potential quick build projects for protected bikeland for a particular grant the city had. This month, we wanted to broaden the conversation and I'll suggest we perhaps go around to each member and give folks an opportunity to suggest any particular street that should be a focus, any particular priorities for either for the committee to take the lead on or for us to suggest that the committee take the lead on, and if folks have any suggestions, anything that we should spend less time on to be more focused. If that sounds good to folks, perhaps we'll go around. I can call on people and we'll suggest things individually as we go, and then we can try to extract out the common themes from that. Sound good? Let's see. So I can start us off. For me, in terms of priorities, largely I want to build off of the bike network plan that was approved last year. Very glad that got approved and that we have a map to go off of and a sense of prioritization overall. So a major goal for me is following up with City Council as they tackle a safe streets ordinance of some kind to help make building a bike network the default for the city as they plan out quick build projects or as they plan out longer term reconstruction. There's a lot of active discussions that are still happening right now, but getting involved with that I think is the highest priority focus for me. Other than that, very interested in the city planning out connections to the community path. It's a fantastic resource, but sometimes still hard to get to on some streets. So I hope we can do more. I hope the city can do more to connect to that and fix some of the weird discontinuities or trickier intersections. And then as a committee, one suggestion on my end is to put out, revamp our website in general, put out more content, in particular everything about like winter biking or content about what to expect from blue bikes in the winter and so on. And I think we get a decent amount of traffic there and could be useful to have to revamp that, make it easier to use and have more content there. That's it for me for now. I guess I'll go around to folks in order for anything they want to share. Lena.
Sorry, my laptop is, I have a new laptop on the way. That's how bad my current laptop is right now. Let me think. So I'm curious, can supporting things that are kind of already in place, like I feel like for me Elm Street is just like two kind of things that are, when I bike like into Somerville from West Somerville, Broadway and like Elm are now surrounded by like Holland, which is so nice, you know? So it's like really poor conditions on West Broadway, poor conditions on Elm, and then this nice Holland in the middle, like prioritizing the connection between like basically the new Powder House, Alewife Brook, far end of Somerville, all the way, you know, in on West Broadway to Holland and down Elm. And I think the Davis Square commercial plan and meeting, just, I don't know, I feel like that is a good thing to like check out and sort of kind of focus on that connection if we are going to prioritize like parts of the bike network. Yeah, I guess that would be the projects to prioritize then. Yeah, and
making sure I capture that. Was that more about the connection through the heart of Davis Square or more about Elm Street itself after Davis?
Kind of both. It was kind of both, just because like I start thinking about how Elm Street should be pedestrianized altogether, because I don't know, Davis Square is just like a rough place to drive anyway, and like people want to be walking there, and that's like where the shops are. So I don't know, just thinking about Elm Street, it's in poor condition, and it's in poor condition all the way down to Somerville Ave. But otherwise, like, it's just another, it's a good main line connection, like from West Somerville into like, the heart of Somerville. And just like, forget, I mean, it's forget like bike infrastructure for a second. It's just the road surface is just unpleasant to bike on. I avoid it by like biking in Cambridge instead, actually. So I would love to be, and it takes longer. I hate to say it, but like it takes longer. So I'd like to be able to use like that direct route and like really look forward to Highland. I think protecting and improving the main thoroughfares are, just as important as making safe neighborhood streets with traffic calming and like roundabouts. So I prioritize like main thoroughfares. They should be generating the most traffic, so it should be safe to use them and go to those businesses.
Thanks, Lena. Next up, Ted Feldman.
Yeah, so I think people already highlighted some good ones. I would say that related to Tom's point in general, how we can participate in creating design guidance around the implementation of the bike network. I know there were some areas where the details of implementation are not really spelled out yet. So I think how we can play a role in spelling those out, how we can assist, should be a priority if we want to talk about implementation. And I think there are some examples that have gone around of what some of those guides have looked like. I think even maybe understanding sort of, obviously the bike network implementation depends on what capital projects are there, and of course the Safe Streets Ordinance. So if there's anything that we can play a role there, and I think aligning some of those priorities further. I know we started this discussion. I'm sorry I couldn't make last month's meeting. So I think having that as an ongoing discussion would be another one. If there is anything still outstanding with the Route 16 corridor that we can participate in would be another, but that's my short list.
Thanks, Ted. And just restating that to make sure I got that. It's about the design discussion is about potential guidance of like what is the width of a protected bike lane, what materials do we use, and so on. Correct.
With the materials, I think even in some cases, right, there are a lot of streets that are designated to be one way, and it's not clear or which way the one-way bike lanes on those streets would go yet. In some of the areas, particularly around West Somerville. So
yeah,
even questions like that.
Good call out. All right, next up, Gregory.
Yeah, I think so after our call last month, I started sort of mapping out what projects are going to be complete in the next like couple of years, and it's pretty exciting to see once you sort of fill in McGrath and Highland and West Washington, and then also put some of like Cambridge's stuff on there too, and sort of see what's missing. And I mean, I think in terms of like roads that I would like to see that sort of popped out from that was definitely Elm Street and that sort of connection to Davis and getting to Beacon Street there. And then another thing that popped out is a connection to Assembly Row and possibly East Broadway, because now with Grand Union done and McGrath going to be done, there's like you can have a really good connection to Assembly, which is really hard to get to by bike from anywhere else. And then on bike routes, the other thing I was thinking about was the very short section of Washington between McGrath and the community path. particularly if we ever want to use the McGrath as a detour for when the viaduct's closed. And then the other non-thing related to actual routes. Sorry, my son is on the couch here, not wearing clothes, and I've been excited for recruitment too, because I just saw that Adam said that we had a bunch of interest. So building out the committee so we can, do more things would be great too.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Greg. And Alex.
Yeah, so first and foremost for me is Beacon Street with Hampshire being done. Beacon Street, for anyone who has to go pretty much anywhere kind of on that bike highway, it sticks out like a sore thumb after you get past Inman. And it's very clear where it's very clear where that is. Similar to Tom, more focused on the website, our media, just what information we're putting out. I met with someone that was interested in the committee last week, and one thing they had said was like that was just very hard to figure out what the committee was working on from anything online. And then when they joined one of the meetings, it was very, very heavy details, which I think that's part of what this committee has to do is heavy details, but at the same time having very little. And it was very hard for someone to figure out what the high level things are to then be able to fold themselves into the areas that they're very passionate about. So I think that's one thing I'd love to work on. A completed Western Washington Street for 2024. And I think one of the other ones that I think about is more interaction with engineering around what street resurfacings are very rare, but trench restorations are much less rare and present a very interesting opportunity to create nicer bike paths. We've done this on Webster in the years past, and it's been being able to restore that part made of some place that is very nice to bike, not very nice maybe to drive. And the last one, which I know is not, I don't think we mentioned before, was this last 10 feet of Webster Avenue at Somerville between Webster and Prospect, which is like, it's a turning lane today. And I think I don't actually know if it meets the criteria for what a turning lane needs to be, but it's a pretty dicey connection, especially of all the construction right there, which will end, but I think it still presents a very small investment against a very important connection. And that's it for me. Thanks.
Alex, process wise, let's see, let's keep hearing from members. Then I know the city's still planning things, but I'll just give them a chance to add any context of any projects that we should be aware of. Then give guests a chance to suggest anything. Then we'll open up the discussion in general to members to extract out any common themes, etc. So with that, Mark.
I actually don't have anything to add from what people have said.
All right. With that, mobility, anything we should be keeping in mind with these projects? Anything in particular come to mind that we haven't discussed yet?
One for me is definitely the website resonated with me, but I think definitely more on the outreach side is something that the city believes there could be a lot of synergy with the committee and where you guys could help sort of amplify our message and amplify what we're trying to do around improving bicycling infrastructure in Somerville. We started to see some of that from PTAC, which is really cool. And it would be great, I think, to extend that to biking as well and getting more people excited about biking, right? Like you guys are great about the infrastructure piece and the technical details of things and working with us on projects, but sometimes spreading the word and like getting people just excited about biking and excited about the projects that we're doing and all the work that's going on, and hearing from as many people in our community possible is something that I would love to see growth in on the committee over the next year, and I know would strengthen our message as we build more projects and emphasize bike infrastructure and bike safety. So that would be my wish list item as a member of the staff, but everything that you guys have said also really resonates with us and is stuff that we've been talking about a lot as a group. We're talking about in our work plan for this year. And so hopefully next month we'll be able to come back to you guys and start to talk through some of the new projects on our plate for 2024 and beyond.
Awesome. With that, any guests, feel free to raise your hand if there's anything you want to suggest. Zachary and then Paul.
First off, I wanted to say voice strong agreement with Elm and Broadway. I bike a lot in that area, and yeah, the conditions of the road aren't great, and also just in Broadway that the painted bike lanes don't offer a whole lot of protection in addition to the road condition not being great. But I also in the Davis Square area, that College Avenue, I spoke with someone after a Somerville community meeting last May, and was told flex posts on those protected bike lanes would be coming soon. They still aren't there. I saw like just recently, it looks like a scattering of cones were kind of put there, which is better than nothing. But I've still seen like plenty of cars parked in those bike lanes, and it's really frustrating when I'm coming off the community path and turning down College Avenue. That is like, it's just like almost a daily occurrence. And then also I completely different part of Somerville, Webster Avenue is another place where it seems like it's like clockwork that there would be like vehicles blocking the bike lanes. So I don't know how much of that is like delays on contractor and how much of that is like enforcement or what, but yeah, it's the College Avenue is the one that is the one that gets to me the most, because like there are so many cars trying to beat the light to turn from Highland onto College. That's like one of the toughest places to try to merge into the car lane when you're biking. And then also, because one of the other places mentioned was Assembly, that it's still, as much as it's better than it was a few years ago, crossing to get to Assembly is not terribly pleasant if you're not in a car. But also like Assembly Square itself just feels like it has very car-centric street design. It has like a lot of streets with like many lanes wide. It seems very like to be navigated by cars and not like it's weird because it feels like the sort of place I would expect to be walkable with all the shops and everything, but then you have these like wide crossings. And I know it's like not, it's near the bottom of the list to be like to have any sort of redesign since it was just built, but if there's any sort of like at least less less overhaul level changes that can be made to make that area more pedestrian friendly once you're in it, in addition to more pedestrian friendly to get to. I say pedestrian, cyclist, scooter, modes that aren't just cars. Thanks.
Yeah, good call out on those. Next up, Paul.
I can also chime in quickly, Tom. It's later in the agenda, but I'll just address it now since Zachary brought it up, and that is the posts on College Ave. We have also been frustrated by the lack of our contractors. We'll just call it responsiveness on that. And we had to prioritize getting those flex posts over on Holland Street first and foremost as the primary corridor. So that was done earlier. We do have those flex posts in hand, and those will be installed. They're going to be installing them at the same time as they're doing some wrap-up work on those signals that you may have seen crews out doing now. So in the next few weeks, fingers crossed, we should finally have those posts out there in that that buffered bike lane that will become protected. So
that's great to hear. Thank you. And yeah, I did appreciate the new bike lanes on Holland have been fantastic. So I do really appreciate that. And I have seen the new signal buttons going up, and I'm excited for those improvements as well. So yeah, thanks.
Next, Paul.
The path through Inner Belt, I'm not sure what the current status of that is, but that seems like that would have broad appeal to get to Assembly Square. And also the Wellington Bridge. I'm not sure what jurisdiction that is, Somerville, Medford, or MassDOT, but when the painted bike lanes were added, it seemed like that was a Somerville project based on the internet research that I've been doing and trying to plan a ride to Everett. So right now there's these painted bike lanes, and if we just put some Jersey barriers down there and did a couple curb cuts, we could create a safe way to get to parts of Medford and Everett. I think those would be like very easy wins.
Good. Thanks, Paul. Mobility, by the way, is the Wellington Bridge improvement still on the city's radar? I know there was discussion a while back of adding curb ramps.
Yes, that piece is still outstanding. It's a strange situation because those ramps are in Medford, but we are still building them for Medford. And so that is a punch list item, unlike the Pearl Street contract that's going to get done in the spring, hopefully. And then the flex post conversation is a longer one with MassDOT because we were told we had to remove them, that they weren't gonna be able to plow it. And it's a very resource intensive for us to be installing those and removing those every winter. So we just haven't been able to move that conversation forward with them yet. But those are still very much on our radar and things we're trying to make progress on this year.
Thanks for that update. With that, we'll open it up for general discussion from the committee. Either anything else that comes to mind in reaction to these ideas, or any themes you're seeing here, anything you want to especially emphasize. I can start us off with some themes I'm seeing. Definitely some emphasis of connections around Assembly, but probably the single biggest street that I think folks mentioned the most was Elm Street, especially near Davis. I think it was similar to our input last month, but yeah, the number of streets, but Elm Street seems to be the most highly mentioned, maybe Beacon Street as a close second there. Then other than that, hearing lots of interest around recruitment, engagement, improving our website in particular as a path toward that, and also building out the bike network between Safe Streets Ordinance, design guidance, and understanding the one-way streets within there. Any other reactions? Lena, with your hand up.
Tom, I had a question for the committee if no one else has any comments. I heard you mention connections to the community path. I think I remember last month hearing Greg mention School Street and connecting up to Highland from the community path. Are there any other streets in particular outside of school that the committee feels like would be highest priority in terms of north-south connectors?
Well, that's a good question. For me, it's not super, at least it's not clear what the priorities are, that a number of these streets would benefit from that. But as of right now, there's like a pretty long stretch without like a clear connection to the community path. And any streets on there would narrow it down. But definitely building out the existing infrastructure on School or Walnut seems desirable to me. Alex?
The less on the connections, I think more on the wayfinding, I think would be beneficial. Like for example, the one getting off near McGrath to get to Union Square is not trivial to figure out where to go. It's not the McGrath one, it's the one after that where you have to take a side street to get around to get past McGrath. I forget the street name, but it's hopefully not doing a job. Yeah.
Like where you have to go up.
Yeah.
to get to the street level, yeah, Chester and Cross.
But it just, I think just wayfinding, is where I'd like to think.
Great.
Yeah, I was also going to bring up the cross street intersection, getting off there, and because there's no crosswalk to get across there, that's a tricky connection to get on and off the path, and it's also tricky to find too, because I don't think there's great signage there. Or that may have changed since the last time I've been on Cross Street though.
Yeah. Anything else on community path access in general or other priorities? I wanted to react to one. Greg, I think, mentioned Washington Street around McGrath. And I also really like that as a suggestion for improvements. Hopefully better access between Union and community path. Hopefully narrow some of the extremely wide streets there. There's at least one like pretty brutal like multi-lane slip lane around there. So I know the city was considering improvements there and bus lanes there a year ago. I'm not sure what came of that, but that is like a short stretch, but very valuable improvements. Lena?
Yeah, one thing in terms of outreach, like a specific thing about outreach, is there, it would be neat or something I can picture is involving businesses in that outreach, like having businesses be like the center where we meet, or like, you know, the taco tour was really successful, that, you know, brought bicyclists to businesses, and like also it's just it like engages other people, but it also makes the businesses feel involved, and like they can see the benefits directly and like get business and stuff. I feel like it kind of seems like an easy thing to do because everyone wins. But like just be conscious of looking for opportunities to involve businesses when it comes to outreach efforts.
Zachary?
Yeah, another community, I agree with especially Union Square, but another one is crossing from, if you're on like Cross Street and going to via Tough Street to the community path near the T station, just crossing Washington Street there is kind of awful. And if you're coming off the community path going the other way, like you get off on the far side of Washington Street, and then there isn't any really great way, as like I appreciate that there's bike lanes there if you're continuing up Washington Street, but trying to do a left turn there is right now really dangerous. And the last plan I saw was, which I mean this months ago, so I don't know if this has changed, was to put a crosswalk like much farther up Washington Street, to kind of go up and then have a decent crossing and then come back to Tough Street, which I mean would be better than the kind of lack of safe crossing right now, but is much less convenient than having one close to where you get off the community path.
Okay. Noted. Yeah, I'll not getting too much into the details, but I'll note that we had somewhat similar feedback, but I think the proposal is at least a more direct connection, but we definitely had a lot of concerns about making sure that crossing Washington is as convenient as possible for accessing Tough Street there. All right, thanks, folks. With that, any closing thoughts on 2024 priorities from members? A lot of good suggestions here. I don't know if this is like narrowed down as the city had hoped, if there's reasonable guidance already. Do you have any questions for us as of right now about prioritization?
I guess for me, it would be interesting. It's all super helpful. If you guys want to give us or a more structured response.
Mhm.
And maybe even like, do you want to concentrate on the community path or on the, cross city connections? If you want to maybe tease out some larger themes,
Mhm.
that might be helpful, but in the end, we'll take any feedback.
Mhm.
And it's super, helpful individual and collective responses.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I guess my only follow-up question is, it seems like this could all feed really well into an annual report. I don't know if the committee was thinking about doing some, obviously that this could be separate from that, but I don't know if that's something that the committee is still thinking about doing or is interested in tackling.
Yeah, it's a good question. I know an annual report slipped off our radar, at least last year. Yeah, I think that's a good thing for us to figure out as well. If anybody's especially interested in driving that forward, definitely let me know. But for now, Ted, as you've been taking minutes, maybe I can work with you to have a write-up and extract out some common themes from our discussion tonight.
Yeah,
and we can
absolutely. I was actually gonna.
rank that.
Yes, absolutely. I think we'd be happy to do that in an engineering and eval meeting. I was also going to add that I was about to post a link. I created a table with all of your comments, so I was going to just ask everybody to double check and make sure I got all of your points and feedback and priorities correctly as I was taking them down. So I'll put that in the chat in a second.
Sure.
Thank you. All right. There you go.
That covers my suggestions at least, though Ted, I don't see your suggestions on here yet.
That is true. I think I managed to write everybody's except my own. So I will add that. Good call, Tom.
Members, anything else that wasn't captured on here?
Or if I didn't capture it fully, or get the main points of what you would have liked, please feel free to clarify as need be.
Hearing nothing, I think that's it for 2024 priorities for now. So Ted, I'll work with you if you want to send us into the city in some form and/or do some ranking of these perhaps next month. Sound good?
Yep.
Right. next up, I wanted to cover any proposals that members have for discussing with the city's engineering department next month. I know Alex already mentioned working with them on improvements that can be made during more minor resurfacing. Any other topics or questions that members have for engineering? Greg?
Would engineering control review of bike plans during construction?
Yes.
So maybe going over things like longer term plans for bike lanes or protected bike lanes during construction projects. I'm thinking things like the Somerville Ave across Forge, where that bike lane's been closed for a really long time. Things like that. Potential ways to mitigate that.
Yeah, I think just generally a safe assumption is construction will not end in the city, and so we should assume that we need to build bike lanes, maybe not protected during all construction.
I would say also related to that, kind of not only detours, but sort of checking some of the things that are done, like if there's a trench and it's covered with a steel plate, sometimes those steel plates kind of end up, maybe without thought or care, kind of directly in the bike lane. And are they always given asphalt ramps and things like that? So actually creating hazards through some of the construction, making sure those are mitigated.
One topic for me, I'm curious to understand more their engineering constraints around grades. I know the school street crossing the community path had constraints around being near a bridge and ADA compliance on a slope. And I'm curious to better understand that, what constraints they have there, or focuses on ideas for improving that intersection in particular, and any other challenges around grade that we should understand in our proposals. Greg?
Is engineering also in charge of repaving prioritization? We might want to talk about, there's like a ranking system that uses ADT and traffic condition. We might want to talk about potentially incorporating the bike network into that. And someone to potentially bump things up on the that could have bigger impacts to bike infrastructure.
I think another question related to projects was that there used to be a repaving schedule, or at least I'm not aware of what the current incarnation of that repaving schedule is. So maybe talking about that and how that relates to the bike network implementation and opportunities there. Like if there is a new schedule, what's sort of coming up?
Great suggestions. Greg, could you clarify, was your interest more in maintenance of the existing bike network, or about resurfacing as like an opportunity to expand the bike network, or both?
An opportunity to expand, because I believe, I'm not sure if it's been updated, but there was like a scoring system that was done on pavement condition and then also how busy a road is. And we might want to lobby for incorporating some bike network importance into that rating.
All right, anything else? Right, given that, Ted, maybe I'll work with you on picking the suggestions so far, and we can write these up to send these over to the city in advance of next month's meeting.
Sounds good.
I might also suggest reaching out to Ian directly to get the list in front of him. I know he's particularly passionate about safe routes through construction, so seeing if he has any additional input that we want Brian to chime in on could be helpful.
Good call. All right, any closing thoughts on prioritization overall, members? Hearing nothing, with that, we'll hand it over to mobility for the city update.
Okay. All right, so we'll start with outreach and recruitment. Only one upcoming engagement opportunity on our radar at the moment. That is this Sunday, I believe. There's a Three Kings celebration. Forgetting where that is, but that is a link to the webpage. So if anyone's interested in going to that. Otherwise, things are starting to quiet down as we're getting into the dead of winter here. On recruitment, we do have hopefully an exciting update for everyone. So the call for volunteers to join the bike committee or the pedestrian and transit advisory committee was sent out on December 14th. Link to the call for volunteers on the city website is there. So far, we have received 35 applications and 20 with an interest in either only the bike committee or either the bike committee or the pedestrian and transit advisory committee, which was encouraging to see. So we are going to leave the application window open for another month, and then we'll start scheduling interviews. I think we're looking at like probably 8 to 10. And so I think the main question for us is there someone from the bike committee that could represent the SBAC at these interviews and help us pick some candidates?
Do you know when they would be, Adam?
Not yet, likely sometime. We'd likely start that process shortly after the application window closes. So I'd guess February. We could work with you guys, whoever that representative is, or if you guys want to have a couple to figure out timing.
Yeah, and we're thinking maximum of 30 minutes per interview. And it would be great to have the same person on all 8 to 10. And I know that's a commitment, but it would be nice to have a continuity of comparing the candidates.
Yeah.
Or if you guys could even commit to a couple people that could do all of them too, I think that's at least one.
I'm happy to volunteer for at least some of them.
Yeah, depending upon timing, I would be happy to volunteer for some of them as well.
Same.
Okay, cool. All right, so why don't we follow up then on details as we get closer to that time period, and maybe we'll iron out exactly what that looks like, but it sounds like there's some general interest, and maybe it will depend on the timing we end up scheduling these for. Very cool. And I also just wanted to point out on the right here, didn't have a photo of any good engagement opportunity done in the last month that I hadn't already shown you guys. So I wanted to highlight PTAC's interactive map of all of the places, people's favorite places to walk, which is based on stickies that people have put on a board that they brought around to all their outreach engagement events throughout the year. And so if you go to that link there, you can scroll through this map and see a lot of what people highlighted. That big one in the middle is the community path, which is really cool. That was the biggest one. You even got some stuff down in Cambridge and up in the Fells as well, which are definitely not Somerville, but I thought that was a cool thing that they put together to kind of summarize some of the outreach that they did. All right, next up, I will turn things over to Viola.
Yeah, so question was brought up, what it's gonna happen if the community path has to be closed in snow emergencies, and I thought, since we hopefully getting some snow this weekend, hopefully not as an emergency, but, currently the plan is in a snow emergency, the, city puts out these city alerts and you can all sign up. People outside of Somerville can also sign up. There's the link there. And parallel to the city alerts, there's also, will be a push to social media, and in a snow emergency that will include community path too. The city alerts will point to the Somerville snow page, and that really has all the information relating snow removal, including information about the community path, including a link to the Somerville GLX page. And on that page, the city will make sure if a community path section or segment has to be closed in like inclement weathers, that there will be an announcement on that page. And I just wanted to emphasize, this is the first time that the city is going to do it, and DPW obviously in snow emergencies will be very busy. So please be kind, provide any information that you can give so we can improve the process and kind of help spread the word that the city is trying its best. And instead of angry, hopefully more constructive criticism would be, is very much appreciated. And I think that's where the committee members can help tremendously. It's like the city is fully committed to keeping the community path snow free. We know that if snow falls more than 4 inches, most likely segments will be closed, especially the viaduct, because it's really going to be really hard for the city to remove the snow on that bridge without shifting snow onto the tracks underneath. So hopefully it'll be a fun weekend and not an emergency weekend, but we'll see. Does anybody have questions about that? Greg, I see you.
I was going to ask, this is a long shot, but does anyone know if it's possible to update Google Maps or something along that lines so that people won't be automatically routed on the community path during closures?
It's a good point. We'll take a note on that. You mean like Waze and Google and all those?
Yeah.
That's a good point. That will be a good
Yeah, it's unlikely
SOP that we can include.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's unlikely that we'd be able to figure that out for this storm, because I know in the past we haven't been able to get super direct connections with folks at those companies, but we have eventually gotten things changed when it comes to like one ways becoming two ways or vice versa. So maybe it's something we can look into more. And
yeah, I think we'll let's obviously look into it, and if they cannot respond immediately, it probably is not useful. Because the thing about the segments being closed will be a very much in the moment decision, because we don't know what the weather will do. But
yeah, I'm guessing these companies don't have a way where you as like city officials can directly change the map. You have to put in a request, and then
we have to put a request. Yeah.
I just looked at the snow page right now, somerville.ma.gov/snow, and mentioning that so far there's nothing about a community path there or anything about like the possibility of that being closed. Very thorough description of what to know about parking during snow, and no mention whatsoever of the community path yet.
Yeah.
Noted.
would the community path closures show up directly on the city alerts, or would that just point to like the broader snow emergency? What level of detail would that provide as a tool?
So if we know at the point that there is a snow emergency alert that community path sections will be closed, my understanding is that they will mention that. Okay. At a minimum, if they, right now there's nothing on the snow page because the path is open. That's my understanding. But we can work on it. It's also not really great to have these 3 links or 2 links to each other. So that's the fine tuning that's going to happen throughout the winter.
Sure.
So if we have the chance to share anything on Bike Committee social media or ourselves, is like, this is basically the info that we should share as is,
Yeah.
including the 2 different websites as of right now.
Yeah, and we can add I thought I had the link for the GLX page there, but we can add that here.
Yeah, and essentially, I mean, the way this would work in practice, Fuel, is the city alert is a one-time thing, right? That you would sign up for those alerts. And then in terms of like active work that you would do, it would be checking the second link, the page, but the alert should cover, you know, those should then get delivered to your inbox.
Right, so the call to action is more sign up for alerts in advance, which probably many people do already, and in the moment, check the snow page.
Yeah, and I think the idea being then that, yeah, any important pertinent information about the path would be included in that alert, ideally.
You have a question from Preston?
Hi, I don't know if you can hear me, but I just wanted to mention regarding the Google notifications or updates for maps. Anyone can, I do a lot of Google map editing, and anyone can submit it. It's just whether or not it gets requested or approved, how quickly they approve it. So for any type of street or map changes, it's just a few clicks to close any section of the Somerville path.
Okay, thanks, Preston. Great, not seeing another hand raised.
Move on to project updates. Here's a somewhat recent photo from Powder House at Airlight Brook Parkway with a lot of the new signal equipment installed. All of that equipment and wiring is now complete. We're just waiting on Eversource to power the cabinet up that runs the whole thing. And so, assuming that happens in the next week or two, if we can get Eversource into town, those signals will go into flash. And so it'll be flashing yellow for Alewife and flashing red for Powder House for 2 weeks. That is just a standard amount of time that we allow these things to be up and running before we start operation. We'll do a signal inspection in that time period, make sure everything was done properly, and then they will become fully operational. So hopefully sometime in the next few weeks, which I know I've been saying that for a couple months now, but there has been, things are progressing. They're progressing slower than we had initially hoped, but they are progressing, often par for the course, right? So very close to a new fully functioning intersection there. I'm hoping, I'm saying that it's done the next time we all meet up. Spring Hill, not much to report there. Most of the work is wrapped up for the winter, but subsurface work is going to continue on Summer Street down near Nunziato Field over the winter, as well as some work on Island Ave. I think they've taken a short break, but are planning on starting up on one or both of those streets in the next week or so. McGrath resurfacing also largely wrapped up for the winter. However, some construction activities on the truss bridge between Pearl and Medford will continue over the winter as well. And then Brad wanted to make sure that we highlighted for you guys that in terms of the future McGrath Boulevard project, which I've linked to a story map that was created a while ago at this point, there is a public information meeting, link there for more information on February 13th. Okay. Okay. In addition to all those capital project updates, we have a couple of the Complete Streets project updates to report. In Davis Square, the signal work is underway right now. Actually the same contractor that's doing the work over at Powder House and Alewife is doing the work in Davis Square. The new signal cabinet that they will be putting with all the brains of the operation on the side of the road is being tested right now at a facility in Rhode Island, I believe, and is going to be delivered next week. And so there's no powering up of that one since it's already an existing intersection, and no flashing operations. So there's a chance that we could see some new phasing and timing in the Davis Square intersection as early as the end of next week. If not, hopefully it's the following week. So you guys may be noticing some changes to the way Davis Square is functioning in the next week or two. And then, as I mentioned earlier, alongside that, our DPW has finally gotten a delivery of the last handful of flex posts that we hadn't been able to get installed on College Ave yet. And we'll be installing those alongside the ones that we'll be putting on Highland Ave as well. So we will not be doing any striping at this point, other than making sure that the turn lanes for the travel lanes are clear, but we will essentially be going from, a left turn lane, a through lane, and a right turn lane on Highland Ave approaching Davis to just 2 lanes. So there will be I think it's a left through and a through right, and then that last lane will become a protected bike facility. So we will be putting those flex posts in there alongside the ones that we're going to be putting on College Ave once that signal is up and running. And then lastly, for construction updates on Western Washington Street, some initial drainage work has been completed at this point. We were able to get in some new catch basins down in the Hanson Caldwell area of West Wash. And for now, construction has paused, and they will pick that up in a couple months, do some more drainage work, and then start sidewalk work as soon as it's warm enough. And then our last slide for you all today. Oh, I can pause quickly.
Adam, do we still expect on Western Washington that even though the sidewalk work didn't happen in 2023 as we initially thought, that it's still going to be completed in 2024?
That's what I'm being told, Alex. So that's what I'm going to tell you.
All right.
I sure hope so.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. And
what are we looking at in the Sankey diagram there?
oh yeah. So this I didn't have a photo of Tufts or West Broadway to show you guys at the moment. So actually one of the things we've done over the last month or two is collect data. And so this is North Street on the top here and Broadway going across the bottom of the screen. And so these lines represent relative volume of traffic. And that includes any bikes using the roadway at that intersection over the course of a 12-hour period. So, the left, this line going here from the left side of the screen towards the top is a left turn from Broadway on the north.
Is that for cars or?
That's for all. That's for cars, bikes, buses, everything except pedestrians. They're counted separately. And then this big line across the bottom is the through movement from Broadway over near Clarendon, heading from Clarendon towards Teal. So that's obviously the heaviest movement, but you can see, for example, that coming off of North, the left is considerably higher over the course of a day than the right off of North. So these are the kinds of diagrams that we use to understand how traffic is moving. We can separate out bikes, we can separate out peds, heavy trucks, buses. So this is a pretty standard piece of the toolbox that we use now to help us understand some of the more nuanced details of intersection design. And then on the bottom there, you can just kind of, you can't read some of the smaller units. The blue is all light vehicles. So everything from a pickup truck down to a sedan or smaller, not including bikes. That's the blue. And so that's the majority of traffic. Bikes are about 2.7% of what was counted in this case, but you can kind of see the ebb and flow throughout the day. The morning peak, things calm down a little bit in the midday, and then kind of steadily rise over the course of the afternoon into the evening. We're tapering back off around 6, 7. I can also, Preston, I see your hand was raised. I don't know if that was old or not, if you had something to ask. I think I need to unmute you though. It was not, maybe it was old. And so just sorry, gotten a sidetrack there, but in terms of actual updates on West Broadway and Tough Street, design refinement continues. So no new news at this point. We're continuing to take all of that feedback and continuing to work through how that impacts the design and working through updates there. Same thing with West Broadway. We finished our first round of engagement and we're working through all the comments and starting to put together a concept design. But you know, those have been taking a good chunk of our time at this point. So hopefully we'll have more substantial updates for you guys next month. That's all I got.
All right. Any questions or comments, folks? Seeing none. With that, we will adjourn the meeting. Thanks, folks. Have a good night. See y'all.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you. Take care.